the government is doing what they've been doing, and we've not been aware of it for most of its existence, and we just sort of went along with it, you know. But the government is big and it's deep, and it's very interested in hanging on to its power, and all the agencies we've mentioned before this. That's number one. Number two, the part that most Americans didn't see coming is how the media was also very complicit in this and got sucked into the governmental side of it, because they're the town criers. They're going to have to ring the bell and inform everyone in the town what the government is doing. So in certain cases, when it comes to Trump and Russian collusion and Putin's puppet, that they need to add a lot of creatine to and steroids to and really build that thing up, if not create it from whole cloth. When it comes to Hunter Biden's laptop, that needs to be crushed and smashed. When it comes to COVID, Fauci needs to be elevated, and anybody in the Great Barrington Declaration needs to be pulled off of Twitter and destroyed. So that's the media, and that's what they're doing. Then that trickles down to the people, and then when you talk to most people, they're really just saying what they heard from the media, who they think is unbiased, but is really doing the work of the government. So now we have a triple threat. We have the government doing what they need to do. They have the media with their marching orders. And then there's the good people of the village who really don't know what's going on. They just watch CNN, or they watch Rachel Maddow talk to Chuck Schumer, and they go, well, that must be the way it is. And they get sucked into it and almost can't be blamed, because they're more naive than they are evil, for sure, the average citizen. Now, there are people like yourself, and there's all these other entities, and there's all these other platforms, and they can no longer corral everybody. The sheep are getting over the fence, the gate got knocked open, and now there's a lot of different voices from a lot of different places, and really for the first time, I'm hearing sort of normal, non-political people asking questions about Biden or the laptop or Russian collusion or what their persecution of Trump and that kind of stuff. And the question is can voices like yourself and these alternative media platforms, can they arrive in time to stop it?
That's unknown. Here's my view of it. I think the lies are unsustainable. Lying is always unsustainable. You're always found out in the end, whether in your lifetime or posthumously. But lies are always revealed by their nature. And these lies are so big and so obvious and so stupid that it's going to be very clear to the majority of voters before the election that the Biden administration has no idea what it's doing, that Joe Biden's not running the government, and that it's not working at all. And I think by that point, we're going to have a real economic contraction. I think we're going to be in the teeth of a very tough recession, and that makes everything much more intense. And so if your goal is to maintain power, and if you think once you relinquish power, the problem with criminalizing politics is the people who do it imagine or know that it will be done to them. So once you start indicting your political opponents, you know that you have to win, or else they're going to indict you if they win, right?
Right.
And so they can't lose. They will do anything to win. So how do they do that? They're not going to do COVID again. I know everyone on the right's afraid they're going to do COVID and mask mandate. They're not going to do that. They can't do that. If they've already been exposed, that won't work. There's going to be, no, what are they going to do? They're going to go to war with Russia. That's what they're going to do. There will be a hot war between the United States and Russia in the next year. And
really?
Yes, of course. They want it anyway. I don't think we'll win it, but that's a separate analysis. But I think as a political matter, they need to declare war footing in order to assume war powers in order to win. I believe that. And I think the evidence suggests that's true. So if you're worried about our politics getting even more vicious than it already is, and people being hurt in our politics, which is entirely possible, you should be worried about the prospect of an open war. We're already at war with Russia, of course. We're funding their enemies. So we're fighting Russia. But I mean, an open battle with Russia, where we say we're at war with Russia. I think that could easily happen. I think we could Tonkin Gulf our way into it, where all of a sudden missiles land in Poland. The Russians did it. Our NATO allies been attacked. We're going to war. I could see that happening very easily. So if you're worried about that, you need to put as much pressure as you possibly can on the Republican-held Senate to force a peace, which can be done. The United States could force a peace in Ukraine tonight. We're funding one side. There is no Ukrainian army outside of NATO. If NATO withdrew its support for Ukraine, Ukraine would crumble in a day. So we are the only power in the world that can bring both sides to the table to force a peace, which will be unsatisfactory as all forced peaces are. Like each side will give more than it wants, but that's the only option. Otherwise, I would bet my house on it. We are going to war with Russia. And of course, the stakes are everything, our life on the planet. I mean, these are the two biggest nuclear arsenals in the world facing off against each other. So like, this is insane. They're insane. These are people who think men can become women, who believe that face masks save you from COVID. I mean, these are not rational people. Would they go to war with Russia? Of course they would. Again, they want to anyway. And I don't know why Republicans don't get this at all, but they don't seem to get it. And meanwhile, Republican leaders, and Mitch McConnell's senile too, so I don't even blame him, but all the stupid Republican senators and McCarthy in the House, I mean, it's pathetic. These people are all on board with the war against Russia. Why?
Well, I think it may even be scarier because you say they believe masks work or they believe men can become women and so on and so forth. I don't know that they believe that. I think it may be worse. I think they can say or do anything to hang on to power.
Their view of Russia is very, and I can say this as someone who was, against the Soviets when it mattered, when they existed. But I'm maybe the only person in the United States who doesn't really have very strong feelings about Russia. I'm not that interested in Russia. I don't see it as our enemy or ally. I just don't have strong emotions about Russia. So I look at this and I see true hysteria. Like they've convinced themselves that our global enemy is Russia. And I really think they mean that. And certainly the Republicans mean it. The Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, the low IQ wing of the Republican Party, which is most of the Republican Party, is low IQ at the leadership level. They all think that and they mean it. And like someone needs to slap them awake. You're leading this country to its destruction. We've already lost control of the world. The American empire's in free fall right now. And we're going to lose the US dollar. And when that happens, we're going to have real poverty here, like Great Depression level poverty. And it comes from this war. And I don't understand why no one else can see this, but it's super obvious once you leave. Spend a week in Europe and talk to smart people on both sides. Like, it doesn't matter what their politics are, and ask them, like, what effect do you think the war in Ukraine has had on American leadership in Europe? Dude, and by the way, Western Europe is our only reliable ally in the world. We only have one real ally, and that's Western Europe. And Western Europe is being destroyed by this. The German economy was crushed when the Biden administration blew up Nord Stream. I know nobody cares, but if you think like long-term about this, they're really kicking the legs out from under this country in a way that is not possible to repair, at least in the short term.
Well, speaking of Russia, I have one more clip to play, which I'm always delighted by. And I think you've seen the clip, and everyone's seen and heard the clip, but they forgot about what happened at the end of the clip, which I thought was very telling, which is, and I know it's a subject that's near and dear to your heart, which is us just arguing about race nonstop while we're on the brink of a hot war with Russia, and we're just arguing about race constantly, which always feels like part of the plan in terms of a distraction. But I'll play this clip from the October 2020 debate with Trump and Biden. But the part you need to really listen to is the part where they want to get back to the subject at hand.
Let me ask some follow-up. Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up questions.
If this stuff is true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody. President Trump, I want to stay on the issue of race. We're talking about the issue.
From hell.
President Trump, we're talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
I have to respond to that.
Please.
Because look, there are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan. They have said that this has all the five former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And that's exactly what.
Is this where you're
exactly
going?
what
This
was
is
told.
where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go again
President,
with Russia.
We're going to continue
Boy,
on the
boy.
issue of race. Mr. President,
believe
you've
that
described.
We got to talk about race. You're talking about Ukraine.
say-
You want to talk about Ukraine? We need to talk about race.
You know, you look back and like people's views change over time. So we're 3 years from that. We're 3 years from the beginning of COVID, and like masks have been, I think, thoroughly discredited as a means of prophylactic protection. College-educated American women have been totally discredited by the behavior of that specimen and many others. The sort of screechy, let's talk about race, systemic racism, whatever, COVID. It's like there's a certain upper-income, college-educated American woman who is despised by like literally everybody in the country. I'm sorry to say, it's just true. It's just totally, everyone knows what I'm talking about. The different awfuls or different names from Karen or whatever, but like everybody gets the category. It's probably 15% of the total American population. They have wildly disproportionate power over everything, but they mostly have cultural power. And it's that kind of like hectoring stupidity. Let's talk about race. Like, I don't think in this next election or any future election, people like that, whoever that moderator was, will ever be taken seriously again. I mean that.
Oh, God, from your mouth to God's ears. Maybe the only good thing of this chapter our country is in is how fast the experts and the college educated are just completely being defunct. They're just, we're never going to listen to Rochelle Walensky again talk about, COVID. Any of these so-called experts, not listening anymore to those people. But it was very telling that we try to mire ourselves in race in this country, and it has to be intentional. There's just not enough of it, racism, to go around. And so it's Kristen Welker was the name of the moderator, by the way. So we have to just go back to arguing about race, and I just found it